sight. The strandings o' the firth in the dead o' the night. They came in their hundreds, the dolphin, the whale, driven to shallows with a sorrowful tale. The learned men muttered on nets and no noise, but the seas bear a tally that none can disguise. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the firth mark the folly o' men. They'll talk all the weather, they'll talk all the storm. They'll scribble their numbers to keep with the norm. But the count only rises, the carcasses show a reckoning carried wherever tides go. From Raasay to Moray, the tidings run grim. The porpoise and Minke now drift at the brim. Yet silence in council halls buries the cost, for silver and power would sooner them lost. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the firth mark the folly o' men. The shoreline at dawn, where once the great singers and dancers had gone. Remember the silence, remember the sound. The strandings o' the firth, where the warning is found. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the firth mark the folly o' men. So order a half and a half at the bar. From Fukushima's waters the fallout sails far. Clap hands on the table, let everyone ken. The strandings o' the firth mark the folly o' men.
Hello everybody. Welcome back. Looks like they froze. I'm froze up here. What the hell? It's not good. I might have to duck out and restart. I'll pop right back up if I do that. My apologies. You wouldn't expect that to happen. I don't know why it's happening tonight to us. But yeah, okay, I'll be back in about 5 minutes. If you're watching this later, you'll never know the difference. My apologies to those that waited. Bless your heart. I'll be right back. Hello, everybody. We're back. My apologies. I never done anything wrong, but here we go. All right. My goodness. We're back at this again. So, the radioactive fallout from Japan, this was the French government model based on a spike of 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air post-Fukushima. post-Fukushima nuclear meltdown. And this was cesium-137. Cesium-137 at 1,010 million atom per cubic meter of air. This is 23 days of radioactive fallout. So all the oceans, all your fresh water, was saturated with high-level radioactive fallout, catastrophic levels, and levels we've never heard tell of before. Has Fukushima radiation fallout caused an extinction-level collapse of marine species and the global food web? And we also done 6 years of species counts from Vancouver, British Columbia to Alaska on the ocean without coming home 4, 5 to 6 months a year after year. Because of what we were finding, we had to go back and see if the species were recovering. They weren't recovering. This is another fallout based on TEPCO's incomplete numbers. So TEPCO's numbers don't include the inventories from Reactor 4. Officially, that never happened. So how are you supposed to have a conversation with people when you think that didn't melt down, that didn't blow up? So we do the best we can. This is today's picture. And there's so many thumbnails I could have made today. It's I started working on the story 5 a.m. this morning. And then I had work I had to get done all day, and I'm just busted up. I didn't need to do that this morning because we have 2,500 of this stuff we haven't got to yet. But what we're seeing is just terrifying. A second juvenile humpback whale found dead in Monterey Bay, West Coast Stranding, top 60. So these are, I'm sorry, that's not the one. Beach whale weighing up to 25 tons at Mini Waters. This is Australia. It was killed. That whale is emaciated severely. A fin whale. There was a lot of fin whales showed up today, and I couldn't keep up with it. And so eventually I had 330 clicks, I think it was. Like we're looking at this a click, and this is a click. It says the conditions of the 16-meter whale, which is 48 feet. Animal could not be saved due to its poor condition. So you start to see pictures of the peanut head. It was hard to take in. Until I seen the whale, I was, oh, great God, that poor whale. Now, that's not 25 tons. Or 20 tons, or 15 tons, or 10 tons, or 5 tons. It's less than... it's just... The picture is just horrific. You can see the rib cage. Now, of course, fin whales are the greyhound of the sea. They're fairly thin animals, Dana. Yeah, but they're the second biggest animal on the planet. They're not that small. It's easy for them to hit 150 tons. Does that look like 25 tons? Am I just being some drama queen? Where did I see that too? 25 tons, right in the headline, 25 tons. Ho, 25 tons. That's not 25 tons. That is not 25 tons. On the best of days, you can see the rib cage, the peanut head, and they got these clots on its head, so you can't really see the peanut head typically, right? Because it's so severe, it's blatant. I mean, my goodness. So my guess is around 4 tons. It's not even 4 tons. That was my guess, actually, when I was sat there this morning looking at that over and over and over, trying to get to the next story. And I have to keep coming back and looking at that picture because it terrified me. And a lone seagull, 2 seagulls. Beach whale weighing up to 25 tons. So that was put all throughout the story. 48-foot whale. I think I've done the 60-meter whale should weigh 45 to 75 tons. So that should weigh 45 to 75 tons. You would have a hard time seeing the people down there if they were stood up in the center of the whale, if it was even remotely healthy. You see their chest and their head maybe if they're. But that whale don't weigh 4 tons. Excuse me. And yet the headline, and then all through the story, you kept seeing 25 tons. It's not even 4 tons. It's believed to weigh 25 tons. I can't get over the fact that they're saying that should weigh 25 tons. That kind of blows my mind. But that's what we're seeing, though, isn't it? We're seeing where they're, which is, low balling the weight of the whale as it is. The whale should weigh 45 to 75 tons, approximately 99 to 165,000 pounds. It should weigh 100 to 165,000 pounds. You could put that in the back of 2 pickup trucks if you tried hard enough. 1-ton pickup trucks. No problem at all. No problem at all. There's zero blubber, zero fat or muscle or meat or cartilage. Cartilage is even cannibalized by the looks of it. The skin is cannibalized. All you're looking at is organs, bones, and skin. That is mind-numbingly terrifying. And this is what we're seeing over and over and over. And the people that put the wet blankets on it with good intentions, I wouldn't want to be them. Popular California beaches, 2026, June the 12th. Temporary closes after a dead humpback whale. It doesn't look that big when you're looking at it. And then when you see these people, they're not even the size of a fin. And look how emaciated the animal actually is. You're looking at the invertebrates, and and then look at the concaveness, the depression, the peanut head. It's emaciated, period. It's not as bad as most of the whales you're going to see tonight, but it's well below 4 inches of blubber, which is considered emaciation. That whale is the best. Is the whale only whale? It's the best shape we've seen a whale in a while, and that is horrific looking. All the humpback whales. All the humpback whales are starving to death. They have a lot of conjectures and opinions, but they don't have any facts. Look at these whales here. This is a blue whale, should weigh, 350,000, 400,000 pounds. It might weigh 35,000 pounds because it's 100 foot of a very thin skin, organs, and just a skeleton. It's, my goodness. Young fin whale beach near Indian Rivers, 2024. We haven't covered this story, so as soon as you see this picture here, the fin whale was emaciated when it beached itself May the 5th, 2024. So these are almost every one of these stories where they actually acknowledge that it's emaciated and starving and has lost its entire. It's a big whale. And look how sharp the spine, the vertebrae and the body mass is. It's just, wow. It's emaciated. That picture there, for me, that's like crazy. That looks nothing like a whale. It kind of looks like some kind of weird deep water fish or something, right? It doesn't look like a whale. Look how sharp it's. I call it a spine, but the ridge on his back, right? I don't because to me this is madness. The fin whale was emaciated when it beached itself. There's a great picture. Peanut, just shoulder blades sticking up, peanut head, spinal column completely. Like if that was swimming by you, you would look at it and wonder what the hell it was. You knew it wasn't a whale. You would say, that's not a whale. That is not a whale. And it was just literally morbid. When I was putting this together, I was like, good God. Again, another video of emaciated, catastrophic whale weighing 25 tons mini water. This was another one of Australia. There's a couple of stories where we got lucky enough to get a couple of versions. There you can see the whole ridge and how thin it is on the top. That's your holy smokes. That was a video. Right, I was screen capturing it from my. And then look at how the body, like the body's like that, right? And then it goes out like this. There's nothing there, right? Because normally it's a very symmetrical shape. That's what, like, whenever you see that shape in a whale, there is nothing left inside its poor body. And it's just more evidence that is undeniable for me. It's just horrific. Like, wow. 25 tons, well, that is not 25 tons, but it might be 10 tons in that picture, but we know ultimately it's... Fin whale beaches at Cape Henlopen State Park, Cape Henlopen, Delaware. Journal. See the rib cages down there. You can see the deformity of the body itself just in that first. And now you can see the very tiny, thin tail. This is something that is just. We cover a lot of it, but I've never gotten used to it. And even worse, I'm the only person on the planet that is telling this story where you're just we're doing this every day. Different whales every day are emaciated. Greenpeace hasn't opened his pie hole. The anti-whaling groups out there, we don't see them at all. The pro-species, groups, we don't see any concern from whatsoever. None of the big organizations are touching the subject, ever. We've been covering this for years and years and years. But this year, 2026, things have changed. And the severity and the intensity of the starvation now is symmetrical throughout all the species, every one of them. And it's, oh my goodness, blatant. I'm so burnt out, my apologies, because I know I come across as burnt out. I ran myself into the ground all day today and failed the whole time. One of those days where just couldn't succeed no matter how hard I tried. And I'm not going to be able to do it again tomorrow. I got to take a day and just kind of shut down my brain. I'll still be doing this though. It's just my body is now ran into the ground. We've been pushing to try to keep this operation in second gear for so long, for so many years. And we've been ostracized. So these people are in the water, right? Just 150 feet away from this whale. I think this is New Zealand, is it? Let me go backwards for a second. No, it's United States. You should see him in this picture. Right there. There they are. Swimmers were nearby in the water. I wouldn't be in the water with the dead whale there, man, because sharks. Well, I suppose, why not? At least you can say you've seen a whale. You won't be able to say that in a couple of years. If you were born 5 years ago, you'll never grow up and say, I've seen a whale. Well, some of you might, but none of you will remember. If you were 5 years old, if you're 5 years old now, when you're a teenager, you won't be able to remember what a whale looks like, and there'll be none out there for you to see. And if you're say 10 years old right now, and in 2 years you go whale watching, you probably won't see a whale. In 3 years, at what we're seeing, in 3 years, all the whales will be gone. So why not get out there and swim with the whale? Emaciated bodies. Look at the blatant just deformity of the body because of starvation. It's just holy smokes, boy. I should be on the ocean doing research. I should be out there with the big boat. And we need a motor for it. It's been to Alaska 6 times. It doesn't work anymore. I'm doing everything I can, but we're censored so heavily. I mean, you know, the government gave me 1.6 gag orders for 3.5 years. That was the max they can give me to talk about certain players that were doing the cover-up. We humiliated them. The animals were moving very slowly and were not close enough for identification, but its size, initial thoughts were that it could be a sperm whale, as one had stranded recently in Lincolnshire, Bridlington Coast Guard. Is this United Kingdom? Fin whales can reach 70 tons. Oh, brother, that's the furthest thing from 70 tons. That might be 7 tons, maybe. But look at the tail. You don't get a good shot at the tail. There might be another story attached to this. Let's keep rolling here. Venture Tide were finally able to confirm identification as a fin whale, second largest whale after the blue whale. Well, there's 2 times, you know, there's the pygmy blue whales. Last year, they showed up emaciated, all of them. Rib cages sticking out, vertebrae visible from the airplanes and the shorelines. This whale measured 17.6 meters, which would indicate it's a young animal. It's very poor, very, 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 very poor nutritional conditions. And very poor traditional. So 18 to 20 meters is 70 tons. So it's not a baby. It looks like a baby because it's so skinny, right? It's deceiving. This is another one. The fin whale was reportedly, this is somewhere else, 2023, was reportedly too large to move and it has now sadly died. But you can see the center of its invertebrae, right? All those little pieces of the bones are sticking up and they look like a spine, right? They basically are a spine, I guess. And then you can see like there's a big ridge in the center and then it goes out and then the body again, that's the rib cages up front you're looking at. That's how emaciated the animal is. Beach whale in southwest Iceland video. Look at the spine on that. And look at the tail, the absurdness of how thin that tail actually is. That back part of the body, rather. And the peanut head, because these are all above shots, they're a little harder for people to... I think I'd get some better shots, actually, yeah. Let me go backwards for 1 second. You can see that ridge. That's just horrific to see. That's death stage starvation, emaciation. It's believed to be a small finback whale. That's not a small whale. That is not a small whale. He does not know what happened to the whale, and he stated he hadn't noted any injuries. He didn't notice any injuries, but it's severely emaciated. That doesn't count for some reason. I don't think this is the same whale. I think I might have screwed up. Well, they're together. They must be the same one. Oh, yeah, that's the same one. Oh, that was a video or something, right? Clearly. That's what these are. Oh, this was the guy with the drone, right? This is another story. Oh, it's the same story. There's so much of this. It's a huge whale. And that drum, when it makes the loop here, there you go. You can see the ridge on the spine. This spine, its invertebrates travel all the way back, are highly visible. Right, and there's that shape again that shouldn't exist. It should be like this. And for weight-wise, as 1 ton, 2 tons, 3 tons, 4, 5, probably 7, 8 tons. Whatever it is way less than 10 tons, which is 1/5, 1/6, 1/7 of what it should weigh. And look at the ridge of its invertebrates just poking out. And the body, because I haven't got a clean shot, so the body looks like the body is still there, right? And per se, that's the rib cage, and the organs holding the, right? Because it's laying on its organs. That is just unbelievable. Starvation. Right, that was and so I went backwards a couple times to try to get a clean shot of the spine. And so I'll just flip through that stuff. You can see it standing brutally out though. There's the shot right there. I had pinched and zoomed in to try to get a better, more detail. I was trying to understand what I was looking at. When you see these types of frames, is because that's what I was trying to find. I was trying to find a perfect shot for the thumbnail. I was going to use it for the thumbnail. I'm not sure if it was in the thumbnail tonight or not. There's a lot of competition tonight for the thumbnail. To me, the thumbnails are basically like it's a vision I can't get out of my head, and so I put them together. And it's a way I use to remember things down the road when I look back. The stuff that stood out that day to me, all of them stand out to you, but I'm hoping, right, the world will come to a senses and appreciate this is not a game. We're in real trouble. This is not good. Bad. Terrible. Beach whale died from parasitic infections. That was the Cape Henlopen State Park, 57-foot. A 57-foot male fin whale is that's a huge. And look how bad that one is. They all look the same, don't they, when they're emaciated? Even though that's not what a fin whale would look like. But when you see all these pictures tonight of fin whales in different parts of the world, they kind of look like it's the same whale on different beaches. That is crazy. Because the skeleton of all the fin whales looked the exact same, right? Beach whale dies from parasitic infections. No, it died from starvation. That's starvation. It doesn't even have 4 inches of blubber. It emaciated. It cannibalized the skin, for goodness sakes, and the meat and the muscle that propels these creatures for thousands of miles. It cannibalized all of that, and then it finally swam up on the beach because it couldn't keep its blowhole out of the water. And this is not It's like we're in a different dimension. It didn't die from parasitic infection. Well, it's more susceptible to parasites. Let me walk that back. It's more, right? They're so vulnerable now because they don't have any immune system whatsoever. The immune system is completely compromised at that stage. Yeah, just... The whale had a thin body and an empty stomach, suggesting it had been impaired and not feeding recently. Well, if a whale doesn't eat for months, it doesn't matter to it. It's not going to... They'll lose 2 inches of blubber or something like that, maybe. If a whale don't eat for a year and a half, then it looks like that right there. And that's what we're seeing with all the whales. They have nothing in their stomach. The whale had a thin body and an empty stomach. Gee, I never heard that before. Just thousands and thousands of times in the last number of years. And lately, it's absurdness. A humpback whale beached at a state park. The body is deformed. It's completely deformed. That's died of starvation. A humpback whale found on the beach point Cape Henlopen, so the same place a few years before. Do you know the odds of finding 2 dead whales on the same beach pre-Fukushima? Zilch. It was impossible. Now if you don't find 2 dead whales minimum, there's something wrong. Another humpback whale, like I showed you earlier, 7,000 died of starvation. What's the odds this one did too? 7,000 whales died of starvation. I showed you that just recently, right? But if you listen to the media, every whale after died of ship strikes and entanglement, which is simply not true. Fin whale beached and buried at Peka Peka is New Zealand? Yeah, it's New Zealand. They all look the same, don't they? When they're emaciated? Like, doesn't matter the species. Most of them looks exactly the same as what I'm trying to say. Look at that. Oh my goodness. Wow. Like a noodle. It's like a noodle. Did you say I'm a noodle? It's fighting words. Has Fukushima radiation caused an extinction level collapse of the marine species in the global food chain? Yeah, that's exactly what it's done. I got 14 people. Bless your heart, where'd all you come from? I've been at this 25 years. I'll get better, just gotta hang with me. I'll figure things out. 1071. That's where we're gonna come back to it. Fukushima had 4 meltdowns in a row. Reactor 3 and Reactor 4 are not in the equation of radioactive fallout. This was a model based on TEPCO's numbers from a German institute of 954 days after the meltdowns releases, right? So in their projection, the entire ocean, Pacific Ocean, the world's biggest ocean, was brutally radioactive. The problem was the radioactive fallout covered the planet in 20 to 30 days, and so that model should have been revised to 20 to 30 days, not 3 years. Sailboat crew rescued. There's about 1,200 whales since data was collected. The worldwide database was launched in 2007. Of whales and boats colliding since the database was launched. The grey whale die-off we're seeing, the whales were already in poor shape last fall. That was 2025, so 2024, which meant they were starving in 2022. for sure, but we know it was much. We have emaciated grey whales, massive amounts of them. When they began their 12,000-mile migration to breeding, well, he didn't have any in 2024, which is what they're alluding to there. They didn't have any babies making the return trip. They all perished. And instead of 1,600 babies a year, they were getting 60 to 80. So roughly 5%. And none of them were surviving the trip. From not just the Arctic, but back to Baja, California. The whales we are seeing are extremely emaciated. They have bulging ribs with shoulder blades that are visible even from the shoreline. So they have an unusual mortality event for absurd amount of species. So it's not just the fin whales, not just the humpback whales, it's not just the grey whales. Every species of whales is we're seeing starvation events. This was the covert beak whales in 2018. And so this was just a 2-month tally. They had 81 from August to September, from September to August, or August to September. But ultimately it was over 100. And they were found in different stages of decomposition over a wide area. And so for everyone that you find, like this is applicable to healthy, not emaciated animals, by the way. So for everyone that you find, you would say if you found 10, you would multiply it by 11. So if you found 81, I'm sorry. So originally they estimated it was 1,000. Was that the covert beak whales? So much of this we can't keep up with it anymore. Yeah, this was the covert beak whales. There we are. It wasn't just covert beak whales, by the way. It was around 50. They found 5,500 whales in just a couple of years, and dolphins or something like that. It was around 55,000 was an estimate. So this meant there was 1,000 died, and they were all in different stages of decomposition. We're seeing the same thing with the sperm whales, where they show up in mass, and they have all starved to death. They died of starvation. Right, and they were showing up all over, way off the beaten path on top of that. 7,000 humpback whales died. That was on top of an unusual mortality event. These are killer whales. This was in Belgium a couple of years ago. And this is severe emaciation. This is severe starvation. 2023. This is severe starvation you're looking at. And this was in 2023. Look at the rib cages sticking up. It looks like a deflated toy. These are the apex predators. So what's going on is the bioaccumulation of radiation from the food sources and from being in the environment is now overload. Look at the rib cages poking out. No clear cause of death of these starving, emaciated animal, but leave it up to the scientists. Now this year, June 26, 2025, there was only 6 stories. Was the Christchurch whale. You can see the rib cage up on the other side of the person with the blue jacket. See the rib cages up there? But look at the tail, that thinness. She may have been struggling to feed. I had to read quite a few stories before we finally... The first few stories came out were all government, and none of them acknowledged that. They declared it was healthy. A healthy orca. It washed up on the Christchurch beach or something. But the rib cages and the tail tell a different story. And then they finally... Thompson was... he begrudgingly acknowledged that the whale wasn't eating, struggling to feed. Orca eats over 240 known species. So you would expect they're the last ones to know to... So this was at the same And then there was this story here, 26 killer whales on the 16th of October, that same year, last year, 2025. And look how close they are to each other now. There was 2 other whales had washed up. And so these pictures showed up. That's clearly an unhealthy whale. So then these whales, they only released, and all the stories had the same pictures, but they weren't showing all of the same pictures. We didn't get 26 pictures of 26 killer whales, by the way, either. But that skinny tail, that certainly tells the story. Now, it was 2 weeks later they found these killer whales. And this picture here, there's no blubber or fat or anything like that. And there's no meat there. Starvation. Right, and this was 2 weeks before these pictures. So ultimately, they acknowledged there was 26. That's what this story was about. So there's 26, but like normally when a killer whale is found dead, there's 200 media reports that week. The story never goes away. Every day there's another 10, 15, 20, 25 stories in that 24-hour news cycle about that killer whale that died. This story only had 6. None of them were the main media in North America, Canada, and Europe. So what's going on? Why? This was an event. This is the biggest die-off of killer whales in human history. There was 26 died at the one time. And the only pictures they released were these very useless pictures, except for that one there, where you can actually see where they're cutting the skin off, and there's no blubber whatsoever. But we have a trend of emaciated killer whales going on. 2 brown pelicans, emaciated, starving to death, anemic. We have too much junk food. You have the cetaceans starving, like too much junk food. It's absurd. They would say like that there was over 1 million cetaceans had died of starvation. They eat the phytoplankton, the zooplankton, the microscopic animals, the bases of the food chain, the bases of the oxygen chain, the bases of the carbon sequestering chain. And at the same time, there was over 1 million common murres. Now, common murres dive 600 feet every day. The bird's main source of prey, aquatic zooplankton, right, known as krill or copepods. Well, like they're skimmers. And so then the common murres, they died. There's 1 million of them died at the same time. That number kept going up. And they feed on anchovies and squid and sardines and krill, small fish, animals. So they showed up, over 1 million of them in the same time, same place of starvation. So you had 2 different spectrums of the food chain, roughly 2 million, 1 million of each species, which was the ultimate numbers that came out a few years after, showing up in different and the colonies had all failed, and they had all starved to death. So they're trying to blame it on skinny zooplankton, and like these are just microscopic creatures. They don't. Right, they're such the way they're created. They were saying the microscopic creatures they were eating weren't healthy. Well, the microscopic creatures are microscopic creatures. They are the creature. They can't denigrate anymore and still be a creature. They're microscopic, right? After the Cascadia die-off, 4 more mass mortality events involving seabirds took place, occurring further north each time. Murres, puffins. They had found 250 puffins, and so they assumed half the population had died. And most recently, short-tailed shearwaters. We've seen a whole bunch of die-offs. And the northern fulmar, I haven't seen a northern fulmar in a decade plus. And now we got 46 million migratory seabirds we're on 2 miles away from me, haven't showed up. And we can't get out and do the research. it's torture. We're doing the best we can, but we need some kind of foundations or something. We need a new motor. Like, these are $10,000. And normally that wouldn't be a problem if the nuclear industry didn't ostracize me from the entire planet. And northern fulmars in the Arctic experienced a similar fate as the auklets as far north as the Chukchi Sea. Let me go backward. And the Cassini auklet story is really an opener of a saga of multiple seabird die-offs that are unprecedented. He said, as far as we know. No, it's unprecedented. It's blatantly unprecedented. You had 1 million of each species at the one time, different state. Both of them depended upon, they were different spectrums of the food chain. Puffins are starving to death. This is 2016, post-Fukushima. In just shy of 3 weeks, they've seen 250. In 10 years of monitoring, they had only seen 6 puffins total on the coastline. In just shy of 3 weeks, they've seen 250, and they were all starving. And they assumed it had to be so high that they assumed half the population had died. See the 250 up there, the second paragraph? Scientists believe the actual numbers of dead puffin to the point half the population in the North Pacific may have died. And they're not going to be reproducing, right? These are legacy, generational. Like the species that come here, they've came here for 10 million generations to lay their eggs and raise their fledglings, and they're not here. The cliffs are not stained with the excrement in their open coastline. And I got to get out and document that again, right? We documented it, and then the motor finally gave up after all these years. And now we're going to go out with a little tiny Zodiac, a 10-footer, which is fine, or whatever, and get the documentation when I should be taking my big one out. You got a cabin and a stove, and radars and sounders, and some creature comforts. You can keep all the equipment out of the elements. And by the time we're going out on the North Atlantic, so this should be an interesting year. And I changed out the fuel pump myself because we're forced to do everything ourselves. And that didn't resolve the problem. So I got to put my thinking cap on. Oh, what a nightmare. Like the fuel gauge is working, so why ain't the pump working? So I got to start in the front and get underneath it and crawl all the way back and see if somebody cut some wires underneath the vehicle or something. Like I can spray ether in, the vehicle runs perfect. Right? As soon as the ether disappears 2 seconds later, the engine will die again, right? The engine starts up, fires, runs beautiful. But I can't move the trailer without the vehicle. Starving behind mass die-off of Scottish puffins on the Spanish coast. Starvation behind the mass die. So we just talked about Alaska and that, right? Now we're talking, and British Columbia and Alaska. Now we're talking about the other side, the Atlantic, which is far different than the Pacific, right? So it's a huge difference away. Starvation began behind the mass die-off of Scottish puffins on the Spanish coast. Scotland puffin population feared to have been decimated as post-mortems of hundreds of birds washed up in Spain confirmed they died from starvation. So according to the other researchers, that means about half the population would have died. Starvation prompts a mass puffin die-off. 2019. Starvation. About 360 tuft puffins, crested auklets, turned up dead at St. Paul's, 1,000 to 1,500 miles from the migratory route. Way off the migratory route. And he died of starvation. So in desperation, they were extremely thin, emaciated, starving to death. Starvation. Starvation. It was murres and whales turning up dead in large numbers in Alaska beaches or in Alaska waters. Now it's the puffins. bright-beaked birds that are icons of the Atlantic. In 10 years, the standard survey mostly found was three of the tuft puffins. The puffin's carcass is mostly intact, show no evidence of predation, so there's no predators feeding on them, which doesn't even make any sense unless the ocean food chain is broken. They're emaciated, indicating not a severe food shortage, but no food in their habitat, which is the ocean, the habitat. So Fukushima, 4 reactors. At the top of each of the buildings were 2 fuel pools, so 8 fuel pools. And in each fuel pool was full because you don't have a repository of decades of reactor cores. So every 14 months, 15 months, depending on the type of reactors and the age of the reactors, they're going to pull about 1/3 of the fuel out and put it at the top of the buildings. These buildings are 3 decades old, so they could easily have 9 to 15 reactor cores at the top of each of the buildings. We're going to go with 9, counting the reactor. And so each of those inventories are gone. Each of those reactors were equal to 100 Chernobyls, because Chernobyl was a small reactor, was a newer reactor, was a graphite reactor. These were massive plutonium-uranium reactors. That was a plutonium mixed oxide reactor reused, which was the most idiotic thing we could ever do. And the entire buildings are gone. I mean, officially that never happened. Right? They put these contraptions over them, and then the media went out and sang and danced to everybody a lullaby, claimed that they're on top of a building that doesn't even exist. And they've done the same thing for reactor 3. And then, these were 190-foot buildings, by the way. That looked like a 190-foot, 19-story, 65-meter building to anybody. It's like saying the whales are 40 tons when he maybe weighs 4 tons. They're insane. The whole industry is insane. Reactor 4 is up top. Then number 3 is in kind of the top middle. And then over in the corner is number 2. And then beyond that would have been number 1. This is the common spent fuel pool, which took extra fuel from all the reactors. Why is it completely pixelated out? The entire... So Neptunium-239, by the way, decays to plutonium every 2.5 days for 10 times. So after 25 days, that plume is plutonium-239. That's 20 days, though, and this is 21 days. So you might as well call them plutonium plumes with a 24,000-year half-life. The French government had a spike to over 1 million times normal. So there was a spike in the United States to 1 million times normal. The IRSN, the French government itself, of nuclear and radiation risk, put out this model based on 8 days, right? And then the video, when you play it, this was 23 days. Of 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137 per cubic meter of air. Cesium-137 pulses energy 600 feet every second. And there's nothing with an autoimmune trigger that can defend against it. So we launched research expeditions, and the species to your left disappeared. So the species to your left are now exterminated. We went back 5 more times, so 5 more years. And went from Vancouver, British Columbia, right to Alaska border, right on the border. That's where I got injured when I was a commercial diver. It was 10 kilometers from the border. So we built this operation. We need a motor for the orange Zodiac, because that's your work machine, right? And that Zodiac has been down now for 2 years because I've been ostracized from the planet. I don't exist anymore. Imagine telling stories like this and all I can get is 15 wonderful people and 16 likes and 14 votes. Wrap your mind around that statement. By the way, it's been 14 votes since the show started. I haven't got a single new vote on the poll. The species to your left are exterminated due to Fukushima radioactive fallout. Right? Has Fukushima radiation caused an extinction level collapse of the marine species? Well, we also done these research expeditions, which you're looking at. The species are exterminated. This is an extinction event. And if it wasn't, like, there was nothing in the anchorage at night times with me. It was surreal. And then the only starfish that we found were deformed, full of tumors. Are completely deformed. Look at these things. Completely deformed. There's nothing on the beaches. Like, normally I can't go to a beach with my little Zodiac in British Columbia or Alaska, for instance, because of starfish and I can't even remember now because they've been gone for so long. So, like, you wouldn't go up on a beach because of sea urchins, right? Well, like low tide, you wouldn't try to get on the beach because you have to walk on all of these creatures to get to the beach, and you break your neck trying to get there. The ocean was this incredible, unbelievable, unimaginable, glorious, just an amazing and a privilege. And in Japan, of course, the radioactive fallout from Japan, this is when we started seeing mass species die-offs and broken food chains. Every nuclear scientist on the planet, when they seen that picture on the 15th, knew these buildings, inventories, fuel reactor cores, and the fuel pools were gone. There was no illusions about that. And move ahead a few years later, then all the whales are dying. Did a marine heat wave cause 7,000 humpback whales to starve to death? Well, if it caused 7,000 humpback whales to starve to death, then all the other whales would have starved to death, right? Shortage of food doesn't just target one species. All the birds would have starved to death. All the other animals and mammals would have starved to death. And then this was a conjecture to blame the heat wave, and right, as if it was man-made of cardboard, tin cans, and pop bottles or something. There is a heat wave, but it's caused by perpetual radioactive fallout, right, that's now spiraled and broken the food chain, and is well documented. The radioactive fallout is well documented. This was the difference. This was the catalyst. Post-Fukushima is when we've seen these mass species die-offs. So it would seem rational to look at Fukushima as part of the equation. So then the question is, why are they pretending that never happened? Right? What's the point of pretending it never happened? Really, what's the point of... Now, everywhere I went, there was nothing. There was no insects. There's 30,000 insects missing from the tidal zones. And so this operation, we built that from scratch to go and do the research, not comprehending there was not even no aces left on the ocean. Right? It's hard to wrap your mind around it. But the nuclear industry has a legacy, and this is what I should be doing this week. Well, I'm not. Because Greenpeace gets millions and millions and millions of dollars, and they won't even mention Fukushima. They won't mention the mass die-off of emaciated whales. They won't do their so-called job. And now we're in a predicament, right? Like, we've done the research for 6 years, 4 to 5 months a year on the ocean, and the species are gone. 1 year was 6 months. And we never gave up. We never quit. We never slowed down. We worked with whatever we had, and we dedicated all our resources to making it better whenever we got our hands on it, right? This is like, I'm talking about the nuclear industry for 1 second. We'll go back to the emaciated whales after this. This is Lorraine Moritz. She died a few years ago, and I admired her greatly, and we miss her dearly. She's going to talk about DOLRAM. They're going to talk about radioactive bullets and munitions in the military. And she's just going to focus on one facility, and you can multiply this through India and Pakistan and Israel and Russia and China, etc., or doing the same things in Britain, etc., United States, Canada. You're going to have to multiply this equation she's going to give you. It's a short video, it's the most important video you'll ever watch if you're looking for the truth. She's going to talk about McAllister bomb manufacturing facility, United States, Oklahoma. And they only make dirty bombs, depleted uranium munitions. The A-10 Warthog only shoots dirty bombs. Every bullet, 12-inch bullet, is a dirty bomb. And people are not aware of the significance, impact upon the ecosystem also of this. And so I'll be back after this, and then we'll get back to the easy story of emaciated whales. This is a fun story. It's great. I have a great time doing emaciated whales. I don't like the nightmares every night, but...
Estimates of depleted uranium weapons used in 1991 now range from the Pentagon's admitted 325 tons, and that's only bullets, to other scientific bodies who put the figure as high as 900 tons. A Warthog shoots 1.5 tons of bullets in 1 minute. In the 2003 Gulf War, estimates of 2,200 tons have been given. One of the Japanese physicists who came to our Hamburg conference calculated that 800 tons of depleted uranium, if it's released into the air, is the atomicity equivalent, or the equivalent number of radioactive atoms, as 41,000 Nagasaki bombs. We have released over 250,000 Nagasaki bombs, equivalent radiation, into our atmosphere. But what's even more alarming is that the McAllister bomb factory in Oklahoma, McAllister, Oklahoma, was applying for relicensing at the NRC in order to be able to continue manufacturing DU weapons. And in order to maintain level 1 status, which they have to do to get relicensed, they must be able to ship 1,600 tons of depleted uranium weapons a day. That's 166,000 Nagasaki bombs of radiation. It's 20 train car loads of DU going out of that factory every day. It's only one of 4 U.S. Army bomb factories. And altogether, at all 4 bomb factories at any one time, they are allowed by the NRC to have up to 44,000 tons of DU on site. That's 4.5 million Nagasaki bombs.
And they're shipping 160,000 Nagasaki bombs worth of dirty bombs, so-called depleted uranium, which is depleted in about 4 billion years. Yummy! I want some of that. I want some starfish with big tonguers in them. That'll make me feel better. Boil them up with a bit of tea. Yummy! My dad is being sarcastic. Look at that. I don't know what you call that. What do you call that whale there? That's a fin whale, I know, but even his own mother wouldn't recognize her. Look at the spinal column just sticking up like a stick. This from starvation, though. Like they had a greyhound to see they're thin animals, but these are not. This is not thin. This is starvation. It's absurd. What was he at 1071? Was it? Let me go down. I do believe that was the number. 1012. 1071. There it is. 1071. Just like, I'll get into the picture in case somebody wants to get a screen capture of this horrific. The rib cages are bulged right out. Look at that. Has Fukushima radiation caused an extinction level collapse of the marine species and the global food web? Where are you two, Dana? Get your big head back in here. Drink. That is freaky, man. Like the spine just sticks right up in the air. Like a sail. Or just a rib cage. Like if the tide was low, you would actually be able to count each of the ribs. That is gruesome. And the whole spine all the way back. I would love to get a clean shot of it. Oh yeah, he took that. That eventually came out of the water. We do got shots of it coming up. This is one of them there. Look at that. Holy Jesus. Jesus. What is this? I remember looking at that this morning going, "Eesh. End times. This is an apocalyptic time to be alive. This is absurd. And the world's not concerned. No, who cares? Gotta go watch some FIFA. The tickets went on sale in Canada. They had one ticket. Like 2 million people tried to buy it at the one time. Don't give a shit about their planet. Dig a hole and bury it. We think it was a ship strike, Dana. Okay, yes, but you sure it wasn't starvation? Well, I don't know about that, but it was definitely a ship strike, Dana. So yeah, it died of ship strike. I wonder, do the people know that it died of starvation? The workers, the employees. I see somebody mentioned it was my fuel pump. I just put a new fuel pump in there today. I triple, quadruple checked everything because the fuel pump for mine is in the tank. Is in the tank itself, and so it's a nightmare. I broke off 3 bolts getting the skid plate off. Got even worse after that. I'm busted up. I'm too old for that shit, man. It's madness. Took me all day, the entire day, right up until 5:30. I couldn't even walk. When I took my shoes off, my feet were so screwed up. I couldn't even walk. Of course, I went, the fuel pump relay. I changed that. I changed the fuel pump fuse. I got a pack of 100 fuses. Right? I changed the fuel, just something little. Fuel pump fuel. But the thing is, if you spray ether into the air, right, she'll fire right up and run perfect for the ether. But there's, because it's 120 psi, so there's no pressure going up there. So I'm not getting no pressure at the pump. But the fuel gauge is working. But I'm not getting no pressure at the pump. So I don't know what could... Those wires are I'm just going to have to trace everything back from the fuse box and see if there's broken somewhere. I'm going to have to rewire it eventually or something. I can't afford to We can't afford to fix the boat. We can't afford to fix the truck. Don't know how much things are going to cost. Can't take a chance on anything because of censorship now of me. We have such little support. I can't believe we're still running. I'm very, very grateful every day, by the way, and I'm just shocked every day that we're still here. I'm so grateful to get the opportunity to try to make the world a bit better, to try to fight back against this industry. So that's starvation. That's another fin whale. It's thought to be alive when it first stranded. No, it was alive. 13 to 15 meter long fin whale. Skin and blubber samples were taken. I doubt it. There was no blubber sample. You're not getting any blubber samples out of that fella right there, I can tell you that much. And note the whale was extremely emaciated. Well, thank you very much. So if it's extremely emaciated, how do you get blubber samples? How does that work? Oh yeah, that's New Zealand right there, that's right. At Peka Peka. Look at it, holy shit, look at it. Look at his body. Look at the spine column. It's complete. The invertebrae are all completely. The skin is so thin because it cannibalized that too. That is like a wet blanket on the organs and the bones and the rib cage and that. The peanut head it's 100%. There's absolutely no muscle anywhere. That's been cannibalized. And in desperation, it swam up on the beach. Clearly, this was alive. When you just want to look at it, you know this was alive when it landed on the beach. And died right away. And so that just made me realize something, a little epiphany, was the reasons you're seeing the entanglements and ship strikes is because they're staying close to the shore. Because they're probably looking for a place to wash up on, to swim up on. That's why they're in close to the shore in the first place. Does that make sense? And this is why they're getting tangled up in lobster pots and stuff like that, because they're right on the shoreline where these whales would be far, far away on their migratory route that they've been taking for millions of generations. And now the starvation has left them incapacitated and incompetent to do like an Alzheimer's dementia type, because they're not genetically predisposed to be starving. We've never seen this, anything like this. And this is all we're seeing. And then we have a very good story. I think we have a solid story when we talk about, we provide the documentations. We're not like the media where they provide you nutting on a couple of bootlickers from the universities. Universities, you can't trust a university. The school's of mass destruction. You're in a lot of trouble. And we went live tonight, and then everything froze up. My system is not some random system. My system is the same equipment the media uses. Because I'm stupid. Now, the reason I got that kind of equipment, which is prohibitively expensive, is very few. I've never seen anybody else out there using the equipment I'm using, the high end, like just a random people. I use the same suppliers. So this is severe starvation. This is still the New Zealand. That's it again. Look at that. Wow. That's what a spinal column, organs, and skin looks like. There's no muscle, there's no fat, there's no blubber. That is just brutal. And when you zoom in on the head, right, that you can see the rib cage is, let me point it out to you in case you're not familiar. And don't feel awkward because you don't know nothing about nuclear. You'll learn very quickly around here. If you watch every show for a week, excuse me, not many people are going to beat you in a conversation. Because once you get it, right, then you can extrapolate on your own. But that's the rib cage, right there. Right, that's... You shouldn't be able to see it. I don't know if I'm going to do anything for the next 3-4 days. I got nasty weather. Like 8 degrees here today. And on a good day, we get maybe 15 for a couple hours, 2 hours, and then it's back down to 14, and then an hour later it's 13. It's just, we're supposed to get rain a lot for the next 5 days. I got to clean up the machine shop. I got to clean up equipment. I got so many things that I want to accomplish, and just like even if I had $20,000, we wouldn't get close to it. To be up and running and in good condition for the rest of the year. We have it's a big operation what we have, right? We've gathered up. Thank goodness, I thought ahead, and I always assumed that I would be ostracized. And so we built the whole operation over, less than a decade. And everything got dedicated to equipment that could stand the test of times. And we did. Like, we went to Alaska 6 times. 4, 5, 6 months a year on the ocean when they were coming home. That was brutal. I was far from healthy then, right? I'm even worse now. Now I'm down to, I think it's $80 in my account now at this stage. Madness, but it's just madness. We did just do a 650 over 3 days, 650 kilometer coastline search for birds, and that was madness because the way I had to do it. But probably about 220, 230 kilometers of that was you're right on the ocean, and. Then the birds on the interior, there was nothing. No, we've seen one finch, one sparrow, and a robin over 650 kilometers. Very little seagulls, the cockroach, flying cockroaches. If you want to see the flying cockroaches, seagulls, you got to go to McDonald's or the fast food joints, right? That's where they're hanging out. There's nothing at the low tide zone for them. There's nothing in the ocean for these precious. I mean, the spinal column rib cages there in the peanut head, it's hard for me to look at it. It really is for me. And I'm doing this all the time. We're doing this for years and years and years. You go to my playlist and you'll see just so much documentation. I don't know how anybody can live in denial. I don't know how that works. I have no concept how that could work. We had good weather, so I just went for it. We went to cover 650 kilometers, which when you're doing a field study research, that's exhausting stuff because you're constantly scanning. You're trying to get you're desperate to have something to talk about, and there's nothing to be found. We were on the coastlines 4, 5, 6 months a year, with 27,000 islands, and there was no insects. Like, you anchor in these anchorages at night right along, tied onto a tree, and you're not worried about the insects coming out and mobbing you because there is none. You go ashore in the tidal zones at low tide to do species counts, there's nothing there. And the insects, there used to be 30,000 insects at those tidal zones. 19-foot tide exchange, where we were doing the research. That kind of stuff kind of messes with your head, right? I mean, these 2 pictures here, I'm going to put them over in my pile of just what the hell. I got a pile there that I basically we don't use it. It's just a pile for me to throw stuff in. So when I scan the pile, I'm like, oh crap, oh shit, I forgot. Oh. It's just meant to boost my memory. Let's go another story. Rescue attempt fails to save emaciated, starving, dying whale. 2012. Oh, this story was really important. This is a fin whale? I can't even keep up with it anymore. Yeah, it was splashing his tail with his mouth open, opens his mouth as a live stranded alive on the beach in England. 60-foot fin whale. So, let me explain that to you. Why, in a year and a half after Fukushima, whales were showing up like this? There's two reasons, two really important reasons. It's like I groan whenever I gotta go take out the information. I shouldn't do that, but I don't. It's not a conscious thing. I'm like, I gotta go over there again. Some of these folders I don't like very much, right? But they're you gotta use them. They're the folders. It's just madness. The whole story is just so off the charts. I ran myself into the ground. I didn't do a show. I think it was Sunday and Monday, was it? I didn't do shows because we were on the research expeditions. And then on the third day, which was Tuesday, which is yesterday. Yesterday. I done a show in the afternoon because I knew I was going to fall asleep again and not wake up, right? Hang on, bear with me though. This is worth it. I just want to lay out why we're invoking Fukushima. I got a pretty simple way of doing it. I don't think there is such a thing as a simple when it comes to what we're doing. Is there something? Okay, let's get it over with. This is why the food chain is broken. The United States hit with extremely large peaks of radioactive fallout from Japan. Significant amount of plutonium released for months. The radioactivity from the plant was measured globally and blanketed the entire northern hemisphere, right? So this is actually planet Earth. This is 20 days over there and 21 days of neptunium, which decays to plutonium after 10 cycles of 2.5 days, 25 days. That model is 20 days and 21 days. So that's plutonium. Right? This is TEPCO's incomplete numbers on top of that we were talking about. There's another fascinating. So plutonium. Where's that study on the plutonium? Hang on. Oh, okay, right there. This is plutonium. But actually, that's plutonium because that's 20 days, 21 days. At 25 days, it's all plutonium. This is a continuous plume, right, that never stopped coming out of Japan, by the way. And it's a plume of fuel particulates. And the difference between an atom and a fuel particulate is this. An atom pulses energy every second in every direction, almost at the speed of light. And that affects your chromosomes, your cells, your DNA. A particulate splits atoms every second, and each of those atoms forever will be pulsing energy at the speed of light every second. So these plumes will double every second. These are, wherever they land, they fill up the environment with isotopes that are catastrophic to everything with replicating cells. So you got to break the food chain with that. Okay. So this is plutonium, even though this is their TEPCO's total release evaluation, which didn't include the inventories I showed you earlier. It didn't include the inventories from reactor 3, for instance, from the explosion. Okay, bear with me. It'll make sense for you. So here was a study on plutonium. This was the United States Navy, Loveless Respiratory Research Institute in New Mexico. with Dr. Raymond Gilnetty as the lead author. 144 beagle dogs were given one monodispersal inhalation, which is a very tiny amount. Death from that tiny amount occurred 5.4 years after the exposures to the 144 beagle dogs and puppies. Tumors of the lungs, the skeleton, and liver occurred beginning about 3 years after the exposures. So multiple tumors, lung, skeleton, and liver. Bone tumors found in 93 dogs were the most common cause of death. And then lung tumors and liver tumors. And tumors in the three organs often occurred in the same animal were competing causes of death. So bone tumors in 93 out of the 144 dogs is what killed those dogs. Bone tumors, which meant that the dogs were producing radioactive stem cells. Now, in the real environment, you're not just going to get an alpha or betas or whatever. So then you got to assume gamma organs, muscles, heart, stuff like that. And thyroid glands. So cesium will go into the thyroid gland the same as iodines, for instance, of every species. Excuse me. And so in the wildlife, when you take this and you look at it appropriately, means that all the species worldwide, post-Fukushima, because there was so much and for so long, as you'll see in a second, are producing their whole development life for all those species, which is going to sterilize them in a few generations, which produce way quicker than we do, right? That's why we're seeing the extinction event play out. Are producing radioactive stem cells and radioactive hormones. And the hormones and the stem cells are the development of the species for the most critical time to adulthood. This is true for humans too. So the West Coast was hit 100. Think of these plumes. When you see a plume, you see these plumes. By the way, let me come back to we forgot something important. The plutonium killed all the animals, right? Okay. It turns out that human kidneys are 50 times less efficient than the animal kidneys that remove the plutonium. So the humans are 50 times, not 50%, but 50 times more likely to die than the animals who all died of tumors. But there's two buts, actually. The biggest byproduct of the radioactive fuel rods is curium isotopes. And this is a U.S. Navy study. We didn't need the U.S. Navy, but they're a source that people can identify with. So forget about the alpha. Curium isotopes are a major byproduct in the radioactive nuclear reactor fuel. So the reactor fuel is sitting in the fuel pool. Its biggest releases every day is curium isotopes. If you have a nuclear accident, its biggest release is curium isotopes. So any number you're about to see for any other isotope, remember, curium is the biggest byproduct. It will be a lot more of curium than will be any of the isotopes that I'm going to show you. And curium isotopes, you need lead shielding 20 times thicker than you do for plutonium. Plutonium killed all the dogs. And the biggest byproduct is curium, not plutonium. And plutonium is named after the devil appropriately. Same as Loveless Inhalation, Loveless Respiratory Research Institute. Loveless was the appropriate name for them because they murder animals all day, every day. That's what they do. The U.S. Navy. True blue and true. Fukushima plume model showed 1 million atoms per square meter. So when you see a square meter, a becquerel is an atom. A becquerel is the explosion from an atom. So every second that same atom, anthropogenic man-made atom, explodes. So in nature, in the fields, in the forests, in the tidal zones, in the animals, in the humans, in any of the species, moose, elephants, bears, whales, whatever, the radiation explodes. The body reacts to that by sending out white blood cells to try to repair the damage every second that's being created from the explosion to the DNA, the chromosomes, the cells, the genomes. That repair is going on in the source, which is doing the pulsing. They'll build a tumor around that in increments over time. But that's what your white blood cells will do to each atom. And when you got 1 million per square meter, remember, cesium pulses 600 feet. So if there's 1 million cesium in that square meter, that's 1 million pulses 600 feet. If you just got one cesium isotope in your field, that'll destroy the genetic makeup of every species within 600 feet eventually. But in the same plumes, 220 million atoms per liter of iodine-129, this was a Canadian study from Ottawa, in the rain. These are absurd numbers, with a 15 million year half-life. So 220 million atoms, theoretically, if you can live long enough, that's 220 million tumors in your body. Think of it that way. Top International Atomic Energy Agency official. Actually, Fukushima is a catastrophe for every citizen of the world. Well, if it's a catastrophe for every citizen of the world, it's a catastrophe for every species in our world, right? Look at these numbers. This is Tokyo, metropolitan Tokyo. Happens to be 36 million people. 36 million. 36 million. 500 trillion atoms. This was sulfur peroxide, hydrogen buckyballs. That's what highly radioactive glass. Because the particulates of the building itself, the cement, the steel, the rebar, and everything else, came into contact with the radiation through the 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, which atomized and aerosol, ionized and radiated rebar and steel and cement and water and everything else. And they were spraying salt water in there for months and months and months. So the salt water, they knew through the nuclear testing / nuclear war, same radioactive fallout, that's a nuclear war. And they hid it from you, right? They had national security, national secrecy. They fed you songs, duck and cover. They're lunatics, eh? So 500 trillion atoms a kilogram is something we've never even conceived at a nuclear site, let alone in your communities. And Tokyo with 36 million people. So imagine how, the farmland from Fukushima to Tokyo is incredible. And each prefecture is producing 1 billion pounds of rice in that environment. Think about that. But as we know about plumes don't stop at Tokyo. So think about the plume to your left over there. That's 30 or 27 days or 26 days or whatever. March 25th, rather. 14 days. Xenon 133, this was only based on 20 days. This model rate should have been revised because this is based on 954 days, but the plume covers the whole planet in 20 days, so all bodies of water were immediately irradiated, which affected every species. So all the water on your planet post-Fukushima within 2 weeks was tritiated, tritium-3H water, and tritiated. And this is not, the species are not designed to work or to have that environment, right? So there's no species on the planet with an autoimmune trigger that can defend against man-made radioactive fallout. Because we covered the whole planet, very high concentrations of hot particles, including plutonium and americium. Now, let me go backwards for 1 second because I digressed, unfortunately. These sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyballs, the sulfur, the spray on 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9,000 degree Fahrenheit temperatures, liberates the sulfur. And the sulfur becomes a spherical balls known, when you look at the technical of it, it's a sulfur peroxide hydrogen buckyball. And it can ingest plutonium, americium, neptunium, uranium, everything else, the 600 isotopes that we're terrified of. And that becomes a very mobile and a very incredible energetic. It's a guaranteed bone tumors and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So imagine what's happening to the species in the ecosystem. A very high concentration. And forget about Arnie and Gunnarsson. I can play stuff that they said is simply unconscionable, as an anti-nuclear would say something like they said. It's unconscionable what they done to us. They were like, Helen Caldicott or Arnie Gunnarsson's wife, it was a lobbyist for the nuclear industry, a public spokesperson for the nuclear industry for over 2 decades. So is Arnie. He's the smooth operator. Radiation levels on the United States West Coast, Canada, spiked to over 1 million times normal. 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air. And this is the plume of that French government because of a spike. This wasn't like a conjecture or an opinion. This is a spike. So this model right now is approaching 20 days of radioactive fallout of 1 million to 10 million atoms of cesium-137 per cubic meter of air. The model stops at 30 days. The plume, it can't be just cesium, it's all the other isotopes I'm showing you are in that same plume. But that's a terrifying plume because it's cesium-137 with a 600-foot pulse ratio. But you're talking about 1 million to 10 million atoms per cubic meter of air, pulsing energy 600 feet every second. So every cubic meter of air on the planet was pulsing energy for hundreds of years if it was only cesium-137. That's going to wipe out the genetics of all the species and humans. And it's going to sterilize the species quite quickly because they reproduce every year, right? So the species that were born after about 5 or 6 years weren't able to reproduce and didn't show up the following years because they weren't reproducing. Fukushima release is so great that the radioactive aerosols in Washington were 100,000 times normal, it was revised to 450,000 times above detection levels, persisted for weeks. Well, this was Xenon-133 with a very short half-life. And the problem with the short half-life ones is when they don't come by themselves. That's the ones that they can find easily, right? And let me bring up Xenon-133 just in case. Yeah, I didn't think I was going to make it the first hour of the show tonight. See, my problem is I have to be active. I have to be I'm going to pull the rest of the hair out of my head. I have to be active and trying to do something. I have to keep the momentum because if I lose momentum, then there's no one out there. There's no one out there to do the work, unfortunately, right? Not unfortunately, but terrifyingly. So Xenon, Dana, get with the program here. Xenon, blah, 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 blah. XE. I can't find anything tonight. Oh, there he is. There's so much of it. So 133, I think it was it? Blah, 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 blah. Sometimes I digress because I get off the beaten path. 133. That's 132. I said 133. Here we go. It's a 5.24 days for the 133. And it decays to a 133 cesium with a stable half-life. The problem is it doesn't travel by itself, right? But now the xenon is brutal, and the damage is permanent. And because it was a plume, such a big plume, covering the whole planet, it done incredible damage. But it doesn't travel by itself. I think 135 travels with it, if I remember correctly. 9, yeah. So there's 10 half-lives. 10 half-lives. Now, Xenon-133 is man-made. And so man-made, usually, like natural stuff, when it has a long half-life, is considered harmless and innocuous and benign. But man-made is not. Even if it decays to radioactive lead, it's still anthropogenic man-made radioactive lead. The only problem was it traveled with cesium, it traveled with plutonium, it traveled with americium, it travels with neptunium, it travels with It travels with all the other isotopes. It doesn't travel by itself, and that plume is everything. But these are different models of plumes. So in each of these plumes, there was the plutonium that was in there, the neptunium was in there. We got so much more than what you're seeing tonight, but let's get back to the whales. A female fin whale opens his mouth. So in 2012, what happened to these fin whales and every other whale was they were getting, because they're getting massive bioaccumulation, and they're getting these massive hot particles, the original plume, right? That was a shock wave to the species worldwide, and the majority of them didn't survive it and won't recover from it, including the biggest species on the planet. These whales were dying from two things. They were dying from starvation, but they were dying from, this whale most likely died from radiation poisoning. He wasn't able to uptake nutrition no more because it accumulated so many hot particles. It's just terrifying that the world has no concept of how nuclear works, and so they're left very vulnerable to an industry with just Machiavellian tendencies. Right? They hate you. They hate the species. They hate the air, the water. They hate the sun. They hate the rocks. They hate worms. They hate soil. They hate plants. They hate trees. I'm not saying that as unwarranted. I'm saying that because we can quantify that. They're nihilistic. They're like little Pol Pots and Maos and everybody else all rolled up into one, but they're chicken eggs. They're cowards. Right? They poison you, but they don't have the courage to be honest. They don't have the fortitude to be honest. This is a brutally sick whale that died of leukemia from the bioaccumulation after 15 months. Look at the rib cages. It wasn't able to uptake nutrition. We're still seeing that today. There's still fish in the ocean. There's still krill in the ocean. There's still phytoplankton out there. But what we're seeing is all the species are dying. The food chain is broken, don't get me wrong, but they're suffering from significant radiation poisoning. And the parents are passing it down to the calves. The calves are sucking all the resources out of the parent. And when they're born, the calves are looking fairly healthy. But the problem is, there's nothing left for them in the ocean, and their bioaccumulation from the mother. It's like a spider will bioaccumulate radioactive silver 1,000% more than what the background is, because they're liquefying their dinners, right? The other species, and the bioaccumulation is greater. Right, so if you got a leaf eater getting ate by a spider, well, the spider is bioaccumulating more than a leaf would be, right? But it's eating everything. And so its bioaccumulation is much more significant. Now, on the East Coast, West Coast, the spiders are gone from the forest. You'll find them tied onto your houses, onto your vehicles. And, I brought the topic up over the years to people, and, lots of spiders in my house. You got to come by there. We got all kinds of them. Where's the birds feeding on them and raise their fledglings? If they're out in the open, the question now is, where are the insect-eating birds? Right, there's 192 species died of starvation in 2022 across the United States. There was millions of them dropping dead. There was 192 species of them, insect eaters. They had died of starvation. They had no fat, they had no muscle, and they had just flied till they dropped. And the media, the smut machine, came out and tried to blame it on your tin cans, pop bottles, and cardboard. It simply wasn't true. Minke whale stranding in Cape Romain, 2024. The species is currently in an unusual mortality event in the Atlantic area. Now, it's a mortality event worldwide, and it's never going to stop. Look at the spine, the invertebrae and spine sticking up in the air. Look at that. Wow. That's not a minke whale at all, see? Because the spine is like that. Instead of being like this, right? It's actually like that. There's not, and this babies, because they're born, they cannibalize the mother's resources, right? And they're born radioactive sick. The emaciated peanut heads. And again, right, the body mass is missing. It's just the rib cages is holding that little bit of shape. And then the spine is sticking up like, I've never seen nothing like it. The world has never seen anything like this. And there's the skin. That's not blubber, that's skin. And we know that because you can see the rib cages. Let me get that shot again. There's no fat there. There's a good shot. That's the money shot right there. And to cut into the meat right there, see? Look at the spine sticking like there's nothing there, right? That's the only, that down here, it's not supposed to be shaped like that, right? It's supposed to be shaped like this. I'm removing a thick layer of blubber. It's not a thick layer of blubber, though. There's a dead whale calf found on the beach. Look at the spinal column sticking straight up in the air. The peanut head. The shoulder blades, the vertebrae, all blatantly sticking up. It was emaciated. That's what, yeah, of course it's emaciated. I can't deny it, but not very often they'll actually acknowledge it on top of that. It was emaciated. A dead whale calf found on the beach, 2023. Whale stranded on New York beach died. Look at that. Look at the rib cages. Look at the spinal and the invertebrae, the peanut heads, the shoulder blades, all very prominent, eh? Wow. That is scary. That is some scary looking stuff, my friends. I probably shouldn't have, but I wear my life on my sleeve, right? I don't hide nothing away. I shouldn't do that to people. It's just who I am. That's why nobody comes here, right? That's why I got 21 people in the show, because I'm too normal. You can be normal too. Has Fukushima radiation caused an extinction level collapse of the marine species in the global food webs? Notice my videos, every video I do will get 100 views, 10 hours, 12 hours, if I'm really lucky. It'll stay there for the rest of the day. That's it. That's enough for him. Don't give him any more. They're just heartless, eh? The industry's heartless. Look at the shoulder blades, the peanut head. Like, that's the skeleton, the rib cages, the whole spinal column. I think we got a couple of close-up shots of that coming here. Yeah, we do. That really stood out for me. Fin whale dead on Sunset Beach in Clatsop County, Oregon. My apologies for butchering any names. It's one of the few things I'm actually good at. This one had a rope around it, but the state park guy believed the entanglement happened after it died. He's not seen any abrasions, a lot of abrasions. It's the same as the recent dead whale we had down here last week. But that's emaciation. It makes me weak sometimes, eh? I'm sitting there. You know, when I'm putting this together, I'm always traumatized. It's like I got so many nuclear shows packaged. I'm packaging them all the time because I love reading, right? But and you know, if you tell a lie, then I'm going to grab that and put that in my package, right? So one of the hobbies we do around here is we challenge the propaganda machine. We'll read the nuclear stories. If we tell a lie, we'll come out and say, well, that's a lie, and this was a lie, and here's some evidence. Here's another lie. Here's some more evidence. Next story. Now all we can do is try to keep up with the mass extinction event, because this will end in a few years. Might as well Might as well tell this story. It's more important. The industry, that's what it does, it lies. But the rope was there after it died. The state park guy believes it entangled after death. Like it's going along the shoreline, it gets tangled up because it's looking for a place to swim up and die on. Otherwise it would be on its migratory route way deep at sea, right? But it can't keep its blowhole out of the water. It's feeling the end times is here. And their instinct is apparently, certainly post-Fukushima, wow, we made it this far. No, my life is extremely humiliating. The best way to describe it. And I'm really fucking stupid on top of it, excuse the language. Everything I get my hands on, I throw back into trying to document what's happening. Because there's only going to be another few years and that'll be over. I'm not getting any younger, and I'm definitely not getting any healthier. And I got so much going on, and we have so little views, right? Because of the industry don't have anybody to pick on, and they got the shit kicked out of me year after year after year. There's 1,000 public relation firms out there who will kick the shit out of me for free. They'll censor me everywhere they can just for free, just for the nuclear industry to say, hey, we censored Durnford here and there and there. Right? The industry has nobody else attacking them with documentation, with an educational program. There's never been an anti-nuclear educational program ever in history. On the entire planet, in every country worldwide, we've never seen an educational program. Now we know why. Because you're going to get the shit kicked out of you for the rest of your life every second of every day. I'm hated. I'm absolutely hated on top of that. And I don't care. I'm trying to do something good, whether the planet hates me or not. I don't care. Doing something good is more important. And don't go looking at journalists for that for some reason. Look at the starvation of this poor animal. That is just terrifying to look at. A 60-foot fin whale. And the whale, second largest on the planet. Yeah. It is really, really thin. So it's likely it hasn't eaten for some times. And that's the same sentence we hear over and over and over. We never hear something more appropriate. Instead of saying for some times it hasn't eaten in a year or two is what they should be saying. Because that's how long it takes the whale to become disemaciated. And we didn't know that post-Fukushima. We're finding that out after Fukushima because we have an endless, perpetual amount of examples. Rescue says there's no more they can do to save beached whale. Oh, okay. Well, that's not really a beach whale, that's an emaciated whale. That's the same animal we showed earlier, I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I think it is, that one in particular. To find the whale emaciated. Well, thank you very much. We appreciate the honesty. The whale emaciated. Yeah. It's December 2012. So these whales were shown up a year and a half later after Fukushima in severe emaciation conditions because they were poisoned, radiation sickness, and the food chain was hideously contaminated. The phytoplankton, the zooplankton, the krill were hideously, and every species in the ecosystem in the forests and the meadows was under siege. From, like, the bacteria was wiped out and the fungus in your soil worldwide for the most part, particularly with the first pulse event the first 1 year pulse event that continuously circled the planet and deposited constantly. A continuous plume covering the whole planet for the first year was the particulates. And each particulate is splitting atoms for millions of years. So each particulate is a perpetual machine. This is 2026, May the 6th. Dead fin whale beached on Samish Island adds to concern for Pacific whales. But that animal is horrifically emaciated. Gray whales are also starving. Think of that statement right there. This is a fin whale? I can't remember. Yeah, I think this is, dead fin whale. Define the whale emaciated. I'm sorry, this was the story we're supposed to be at. Yeah, dead fin whale. Gray whales are also starving, dying on Washington beaches. It's not just Washington beaches. There's 122 died of gray whales. That's a fin whale, by the way. That's what we've been basically covering all night was the fin whales. There's 122 gray whales just from 3 states in the United States, Washington to Oregon or something, and California. There's 122. Now, that's not the whole coastline. That's not the Canadian coastline included. But what that works out to is 1,342 whales. Because for everyone you find, so if everyone you find, you multiply it by 11. Counting that whale, right? Rather. So it's 11. Anyways, multiplies of 11 would have died at sea. But that was for healthy whales. The whales, we're not seeing healthy whales. We haven't seen a healthy whale in quite a few years now. I can honestly say, I don't know the last time we've seen a healthy whale. Right? So that was this year, 2026. But look at the peanut head, the spinal column, and you see the skin is stretched. Let me go up there and show it to you. The world better wake up. That skin is stretched across. That's empty, void underneath it. And you can see the spinal sticking up, but that's the peanut head on the back there. And the front, there's no meat on the head whatsoever. We'll get some other angles, I think, coming up here in a second. That's starvation. They're acknowledging it. That's a fin whale. They're acknowledging it. Like, that's not a 40-ton whale. That's not 40 tons. It might be 10 tons, 12 tons on the best of days, but it's not anywhere close to 40 tons. You don't have to be an expert to appreciate that that's not 40 tons. It's not 80,000 pounds or anywhere close to it. Let me show you a step back picture right there. Like, that's the vertebrae and the skin. That's all that's left there. 61 foot long. Well, a 61 footer should weigh more than 40 tons of a fin whale, which is the second biggest whales on the planet, by the way. He said there isn't a connection between the stranded fin whale and the gray whale crisis. But the gray whales are being hit by a dramatic decline in prey. The whales dying now did not get enough to eat last year. Oh, this is, what's his face? All right, I'll sort that out here. That guy there, that organization, right, they showed up recently. And the Cascadia Research Collective, we've covered them quite a bit recently. They're the, and look at the invertebrates, totally naked. Their job is, the media turns to them only. Nobody else is allowed to have any kind of input. Rare fin whale strands in Norfolk puzzles scientists. They don't know why it died. They don't know why this starving, emaciated whale died. They were hoping it was a ship strike or entanglement, but it wasn't, so it was like, they don't know. Hey, you don't suppose it was starvation? So they're normally found on the south or west coast, way off the coast of the United Kingdom, not on the east coast. They're puzzled, poor things. The intists are puzzled. When you look at the whale at the tail, I think I zoomed in on it there somewhere. That is insanity. That's what starvation looks like. Wow. It doesn't look like, look at this. I'm an idiot. Because I won't give up. That makes me an idiot. The industry thought they broke me. How many times now over the years? Have they called up and claimed they broke me? Like, I was born to do this. I was perfect man for the job. And I can't be compromised. And I don't tell lies. So it's really easy to do my job because I don't tell lies. You don't have to remember anything, just the statistics and the facts. And you can't make up this stuff. Like pre-Fukushima, if I try to write a novel or a screenplay or something of this story, you could never, everybody would laugh you. Right? They just get lost, crazy guy. Mystery surrounds how a rare 12-meter, 40-foot fin whale came to be washed. Mystery. Does that look like a mystery? You're a mystery, Dana. I know. I know. You never get them in the North Sea, so what's it doing here? I've got no idea. It's not clear why the whale died. I don't know why he died either. Unless he never ate nothing for the last year and a half, by the looks of it, or 2 years. Evolutionary biologist Dr. Ben Garrett from the University in Cambridge said, Turka, it was not clear why the whale died. I can't tell why it would die. What was it doing in that part of the country anyway? It had dementia. And it was looking for a beach. Instead of being at sea, like all these other animals, they were looking for a beach to swim up on because they couldn't keep their blowhole out of the water because they have no buoyancy, they have no muscle, no meat, no blubber, no nothing. They're death stage starvation. Well, we made it. I don't know how, but we made it. I missed 2 shows this week because I was stupid and was out doing field studies in desperation to get because we need the statistics and the data for multiple times a year, right, to make any assertions later in the year. We can say, well, we're out through that part of the year, there was no species. We're out through this part of the year, there's no species. Because that's ultimately what the field studies are showing. There's no species. It's boring. I've never been so bored in my life as I've been doing research expeditions for species. Because there's nothing to see. There's no color. There's no joy, right? There's nothing to take pictures of. It's bizarro land. You live in a most bizarre world. And the urgency of it dictates that I do everything I can. Even though a lot of stuff I'm doing is desperation, and I have to do it. Everyone's asleep. Not that I sleep very well. I mean, I woke up 5 o'clock this morning and I sit there while the kettle's boiling. This is what I'm looking at. Like, it was raining. I was waiting for it to warm up a little bit so I'd go out and beat the shit out of myself for 8 hours on my back in the rain. It was raining. I was out working in the rain for 8 hours a day on my back under a vehicle. Desperation. So I can get it to run so I can get the trailer and put the boat on and take it down, get in the ocean, get out there and do some research. Because that's the only way it's going to happen if I just sacrifice everything all the time and go do it. That's what I got to do and make it work. And nobody will ever look back and say, Dana didn't try it. They can say it, but it won't be true. And so I can live with myself. I can look in the mirror every day and say, okay, stupid, let's go. I'm just making fun of myself. I apologize. I shouldn't do that, I know. But it's not an insult. I'm not trying to denigrate myself. I'm trying to humor myself when I do that, all right? That's how I deal with the crushing desperation I have to do the research, get her to and pull it. I should be on the ocean all year long and in the forest all year long doing research. And soon you won't be able to because it'll all be gone and it'll be acknowledged. But telling that story of the planet that we once had, I don't think there's nothing more important. I don't understand that there could be anything more important than getting out there and trying to tell the story. I mean, look at this. There's a fin whale. That's a fin whale. That could be a grey whale, but that's a fin whale. Look, they're so emaciated. They look like snakes. They look like some weird, bizarre eel or something, right? Gigantic. They don't look like whales. None of them looks like whales. Whales don't look like this. Whales, these are thumbnails from all of our different shows in the last 4 months only. There's not all of them. I haven't got all the thumbnails here. Of each show where we covered an endless amount of emaciated animals. And linking it to Fukushima radioactive fallout is the simplest thing on the planet to do. Because all of this happened post-Fukushima. The radioactive fallout breaks the food chain worldwide in just 20-25 days. And the documentation of that is unassailable. Look at the spine. Just wow. Look at the shoulder blades, the peanut head. Just blade. But look at the thinness of the animals. That animal up there blew my mind, eh? Am I still going live here? I'm still live, sure. I better give it up. It's 12 after midnight. Oh, you know why I'm still streaming is because we got interfered with at the beginning of our show. I was out on Twitter everywhere, on X everywhere, pumping the show out, and then we went live. And I guess a few stragglers showed up, and the industry looked at the IP address. Let's lock him out. The only thing is, I know how to keep the stream going. So if you're watching this after, you didn't notice the interference, I would imagine. Alrighty. Don't worry about giving me a like or a thumbs up or subscribing. It doesn't matter. The industry got me kettled in so bad now. But they've used every technology they got on me because they got nobody else to practice with. And because I'm too stupid to quit, and they're aware of that, then they can... Imagine all these people dedicated to attacking me from the nuclear industry to destroy my reputation. And so people won't even look at me, let alone consider what's really going on, right? They're so effective at demonizing and destroying me and your planet. And they make a fortune doing it. They're very wealthy people that are attacking me. They have enormous amounts of resources. And you think they get sick at this stage after all these years of attacking me, right? Like, there's an operation called Operation Long Jump. And that's operation to jump across the oceans and attack Dana. That's what it's called, Operation Long Jump. It's the Japanese government, Tokyo Bureau, apparently, Chicago Division, that's leading the assault, the attack. And they attack me constantly and denigrate me constantly. And you have to ignore everything and do the right thing every day. And not let that stuff distract you and throw you off the educational program. The educational program is meant to educate the policymakers and the investors and persuade them not to invest in the nuclear industry. And I think that any of them that looks at our programs or presentations are going to end up not liking nuclear. It must be pretty effective if they're going to attack me. So if you want to support this stupid work, you find links in the bottom of the description to PayPal. You can donate. You don't need a PayPal account to do it. Just go to that link and it'll give you options to donate. We've never had an issue. And if you want to buy me a motor, you can contact me, and I'll put you in touch with the Marine. You can buy the motor and I'll install it and save you a couple $1,000. I can get out there and do some research. Save some money to put fuel in later this summer for me. And then we can do that every year for the next few years. The world will thank you. You can call me at this number, 709-740-4076. You can text me if I don't get back to you because I'm working like a dog. When I seize it, I will. You can find emails to me on my front page. Have a great night. We're going to end it on another song that from that playlist. Now, at the beginning of the show, presentation here, we had I put my opening song in, and there's a link to it. And all of those are going to the one artist, James Lucid, on YouTube. You can look him up. You'll find him in my descriptions, actually. A link to it, to his site. And in my playlist, you'll see anti-nuclear music everybody can like. That happens to be my big, some of my top songs out of all the songs. That don't mean it's all of them. There's a link there with hundreds of songs. And we've played Stranding of the Flirt for the opening song. And we're going to close it out with one of the songs that really works for me, Nuclear Over Tin Window. James got a new version now. I'm going to play the old version this time because I really like the new version, don't get me wrong. It's better sounding. And I like to play both of them, right? Nuclear Over Tin Window, looking for accountability for the nuclear industry. This is going to be our closing song. Have a great night. Hugs for everybody. See everybody on the next show. Take care.
Those who decide told us there was no alternative. They said the demand was fixed. They said reliability needs scale, and scale won't wait. They said firm power, constant power. Said the future needs it now. They called it a renaissance. Said the decision was already made. They said delay was danger. They said review was over. This is how the nuclear Overton window began to narrow. Those who decide talked about solutions, talked about schedules, but not about keeping what remains when the generation ends. They talked about storage for now, they talked about fixes ahead. They said the process was technical, not ours. They didn't talk about the horizon, they didn't name who stays accountable. Nuclear Overton window never held the long term. Asking slowed things down, then caution cost too much. Consent became friction, so it was pushed aside. The nuclear Overton window moved again, from open debate to settled position. Rules were shortened, reviews rushed, governance turned into something to move through. The window didn't shatter, the push continues. Here stands the nuclear Overton window, not cracked, not broken, held open on purpose. Not a future to keep reopening, not a decision to keep revisiting. This must be decided, this must be carried, this must not be passed forward without an end in sight. Remember this moment. Nuclear Overton window must close. Not paused, not deferred, entered into practice with consent. This should not remain unresolved. This is what we must remember. This is what we must remember.